Welcome into DC On Screen, a special episode of DC On Screen, episode 480, which is apropos because on this episode we are celebrating Superman's 80th birthday. I'm your host, David C. Robertson. This, my co-host, Jason Goss.
Hello again.
We don't have a plan for this episode. Full disclosure, I just thought we'd talk about Superman freeform for a little bit, and this is very last minute, and because I realized it was our 480th episode, I was going to talk about Superman a little bit in the last news episode. Then went, no, let's just do an episode. Have a little more fun with it.
Yeah.
Because if we go down that path, we're going to have like probably a 15-20 minute chunk out of a news episode where we're just talking about Superman,
Possible.
Which would be okay.
It is not unprecedented.
Why not just do this? So, on the 18th, that was, on, Wednesday, yesterday as we're recording this, April 18th, was the 80th anniversary of, Action Comics #1, and Action Comics 1000, came out, and, you have numerous copies. I have one copy. I just wanted the normal Jim Lee copy. Mm-hmm. But, which, if I'd thought about, maybe I should have ordered all of the variants, because my first actual, real, jumping in point on Superman comics was, Death of Superman. It had all those variants, so that would kind of be fitting.
Oh, that would be. But it is impossible to find. Like, the guy who I picked these up from, I mean, this was a timely matter. Like, he set the variants aside for me so I could choose which ones I wanted. Like, specifically set them aside and was like, no, these are the last ones. This is it. Like, you've got the last two of the regular cover, and I set these aside for you if you want to buy them all. I said, yes, all of that. Put that in that bag.
That's awesome.
Oh, he's great.
So, Superman is one of those indelible characters. He holds a great deal of importance for anyone who enjoys comic books or the superhero genre. He was the first.
I mean, you can make an argument for Dr. Occult or whatever you want to, but
yeah,
let's face it,
Dr. Occult.
He was he was the one who started really selling things. Like, this is where the whole thing began. Yeah, really. I mean, I still remember this iconic imagery. It was after Superman had died, and I think it was in an issue of Spawn, and Spawn is in hell. And, there are all these different comic book characters who had died, and you see, their hands and stuff sticking through, the bars in these, cells in hell. And, I can't even remember the context, but he says, even the first is here, and there's, very clearly Superman just, sitting sad in a cell in hell. And obviously his emblem is covered up because it was an Image comic. Mm-hmm. But it was one of the most powerful images that I could remember ever seeing as a kid. Just holy shit, Superman is dead and he's in hell. What did he do wrong? What did the Boy Scout do? Yeah. He's just sitting there with his S curl.
Yeah. And it was a weird, rough image. But, like a lot of people, my first exposure to Superman was in the movies. And, I think probably my first exposure was Christopher Reeve's Superman. Really?
Oh, for sure. I don't. That's probably not true. Actually, I remember going over to my friend's house. I can't. I was too young. I mean, I was 3 or 4. I can't remember the chronology of it, but I remember going over to my friend's house, and it was one of those friends that when you're young and you have a friend that you only get to see every once in a while because it's hard to coordinate. And for some reason, I'd go over there, and he had the Max Fleischer cartoons. I don't know how or why, but he had them, and we'd watch them, and I loved them. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it had to be an early VHS or something. But I still have on my wall, and God bless him, my dad kept them, and I have no idea why. But it's Superman 4. Give me, forgive me this. This is Quest for Peace we're talking about here. But yeah, it's the ticket stubs for Quest for Peace, which are, hold on. Yeah. $4.50 and $2 for child. Mm-hmm. And, I went in my Superman costume to the theater, because I had it, and for, I swear for a year, I would not take that thing off. I went to kindergarten, that's the whole thing. But, that movie in particular, my dad took me to it, and he sat me down, and he said it's the longest time he had ever seen me sit still. I just watched it with my mouth agape the entire time. And sure enough, like I don't remember when it happened, maybe later that year. I don't remember the chronology of it. I got kicked out of preschool, and the reason was, and I have a vague memory of this, was like I refused not to, like I refused to go to school with anything other than my Superman costume on for some reason. So I went, and I was apparently too distracting. Mm-hmm. Also, the preschool that I went to was like 2 blocks from my house, so I would just get bored and walk home. And I love the idea of like a 4-year-old me walking the streets in a Superman costume back home unattended. But apparently that's what happened.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
I'm just putting together the pieces of history that I've been told. But yeah, it was an early love, and I still love the guy. Like, it's still like I'll see certain scenes and just start weeping.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's programmed in me or what, but like even like Man of Steel in the theater when he talks about like they'll stumble and you can lead them, all that stuff. I just started like my stomach clenched up. I was tearing up so hard.
Yeah, I think I probably caught a couple of bits. Like my first real superhero exposure was Batman. I think maybe the Ninja Turtles, but I didn't really connect it to comic books until way later.
I did love them, but it was probably more like 7-ish. I mean, yeah, of course I wanted to be Michelangelo, even though I didn't like pepperoni on my pizza.
Or anchovies.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Superman, like I'd already seen 89 Batman probably by the point, but I don't actually remember. Like, I think Superman is so ingrained into Americana and so ingrained in our culture, I don't actually remember what my first exposure was, because I remember like we had an old VHS. Like I remember getting an old VHS of the Fleischer cartoons. And I don't remember where we got it from, but I remember being very excited that we had it, and asking for it somewhere. And my grandmother bought it for me.
Nice.
And it was, I still have that tape. It's in the living room.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not that you could play it anywhere, but you've got it.
I mean, I have a VCR. I could absolutely play it. That's
well
right.
Played.
I mean, I wouldn't, because I wore the shit out of that tape. And I have all 17 of the Fleischer cartoons on DVD anyway. But, and that tape only had like 4 or 5 episodes. And like, of course, one of them was like that super racist one with the Japanese dude.
Oh, yeah. There's a history of that.
What was it called? Japan Tours or something? Like, oh man.
There's a history of that in general. There's a lot to improve on with the history of all these.
Yeah.
I mean, the Batman serials. Oof.
Yeah.
But
this is the
same
first
time
one,
with
really.
the Flashers, like this is probably about 4 years ago, I guess now. I found, like, I think on YouTube there's just like a continuous play of like all the Fleischer cartoons, and it's just all of them back to back in one video. And it got to the point where he's like punching the laser, and I remembered it so vividly from my childhood that I actually choked up watching it. Like, oh, God, this is connected so much. It was. I felt silly, but I really did. Just, I don't know, connected on such a visceral level. It was what it was.
Yeah, the mad scientist, like that, man. I've loved that, like old school, like 40s patter. Harry White has when he's like reading the note from the mad scientist. That was like the first one on that tape too. So like Superman punching the laser is very much like ingrained into my DNA as far as like what superheroes are. And
I mean, I if you had the ability to like scoop out my brain and find some bits that still existed, I think you'd find like that would be like the glitter of my brain, like that thing you can't get rid of, and it's just kind of fucking everywhere for no reason. Just that image of him punching a laser and then twisting the cannon that shot at him.
Oh, see, I even love like the little save the cat bit where like the laser actually starts hitting him with like individual disbursements of like powerful shots. And like the music changes to go along with that. It's like boom, 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 and it's like he's like flailing and whatnot, and then he comes back to take it down. I love that little crow that's running around like squawking and everything, running away from Superman as the building's coming down around the mad scientist. Like all of that is great.
Nice.
That's like my favorite one of all of those cartoons. But yeah, like I had kind of a difficult fandom of Superman growing up because my mom hates Superman.
You told me that.
Like,
I still don't understand
hates
it
him.
completely. And
she just thinks he's lame. Like she took me to go see Batman in
like
theaters.
she's the big blue Boy Scout crowd.
Like she thinks Batman's awesome
Because he's a badass, and we all agree on that.
Yeah. And Superman's like some kind of lame pansy or whatever, and I'm like, stop! He's not a pansy, Mom. Like she still won't watch Batman v Superman. Like I don't think she claimed. I think we have seen Man of Steel. Like I think I showed her Man of Steel, but oh yeah, I did. I think I showed it to her in the theaters, and then she forgot, and then I showed it to her again, somewhat recently. And but she just doesn't care. She doesn't care how badass Superman is in a movie. She doesn't care how dark he is. Like, a lot of people like who looked at Man of Steel and said, "Oh, he's not the bright, happy Superman I know. He's too dark and gloomy." She didn't like that either.
Wasn't a problem.
She's like, "He's still Superman." And I'm like,
I don't
"Well,
know
this is just the strangest take."
Yeah, I don't know how to argue with that kind of programming. I really don't.
I'm like, I don't understand why you don't. I mean, like, why do you like? The character has evolved over the years. He's still like, yeah, he was campy back in the day. Yeah, he was campy during Christopher Reeve, but so was Batman. Batman was campy in the 60s and the 70s. No, it's different. Like, no, it's not. You're judging a character, like a modern take on a character based, this would be like if you looked at Batman the Animated Series and said, no, I didn't like Adam West.
Yeah.
So and I say all that to say any fandom of Superman that I had in my life, like when I was growing up, kind of came at like a cost of being told like, well, he's not as cool as Batman. Yes, I get it. Stop hating Superman.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't completely understand it, but
I don't
it's
either.
out there.
What would you say is your favorite version of Superman? Everyone has their favorite version.
Oh God.
Let's just go with TV and movies right now.
God, out of TV and movies?
Yeah.
There's scenes from Man of Steel that really piqued me, but it's overall probably not. It might be, and there's a part of my brain saying I'm forgetting something right now, but it might be Smallville.
Smallville, really?
Yeah, out of what I've actually seen on screen, it really might be Smallville. Because I feel like he was getting to a place that was kind of gonna. Like, it's one of the most unsatisfying parts of what is otherwise a pretty satisfying series. Is he was getting to a place where I was gonna think like, oh man, this is my boy. This is the guy.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see everything, like the Ma and Pa Kent situation. Like, we got to see all of the rudimentary parts that created this character that inspired the crap out of us for 80 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought they got that right. So it's a little, at this point, it's a little frustrating that I would spend about $200 to get just the comics that continued the story.
I mean, you can borrow mine, man. But yeah, I mean, I think I understand. Just so you know, the graphic novels do continue the one shots. They like the one shots are in the graphic novels.
Sure.
The volumes.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah, they as far as Smallville is concerned, I feel like the heart of who Superman was in the character of Clark Kent the entire time.
They built up kind of his soul in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's one of my favorite versions of Ma and Pa Kent.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Schneider
I really oh yeah.
I forget her name right now, but she destroyed it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
She destroyed it. It was fantastic.
From Lana to Mama.
Up and down, like the series addressed so many things and like built him up as somebody that's like a more like I've always loved the idea that there's like Clark out on the farm as an 11-year-old that's just being like, come on, we got chores, we got farm chores, and he just wants to do it with super speed because he's figured out he has that. And there's always like Pa Kent saying like, no, you need to learn work ethic. You're gonna do this at human speed. You pluck every ear of corn at the speed I do. A little faster because you're young, I get that, but no, you're not just gonna like pluck this field in an hour.
Yeah, I mean,
love that idea.
That's an interesting idea. In practice, I think it's dumb. I'm like, Pa, you're talking about your farm is failing? Clark could get all this shit done way quicker And actually, you can
like,
invest in other
like,
your time in other.
Yeah, it has to be like a working farm for that to. That makes sense. But I like the idea that like there's a work ethic that he got out of that, and like a morality they got out of that. Like that he was. It's that part has never escaped me. Like whoever the hell he is, he was raised human. He was raised with our set of moralities, and like it's something that's never escaped me.
Yeah. So on that front, yeah, I totally agree with the Smallville thing. My favorite iteration of Superman on screen is probably the animated series.
Not a bad one.
Like when I read Superman comics, I hear Tim Daly's voice.
Oh, for sure.
In a way that like I never heard. Like even after like when I'm watching Justice League and George Newbern is in there, like I'm still just hearing Tim Daly's voice in my head. Tim Daly never went away.
Yeah.
I feel like that personification of the character. I feel like the way Dini and that crew wrote Superman was pretty phenomenal. And I even like the way they wrote Lois and Jimmy. Like they kind of did like a kind of a retro thing where they kind of kept the characters pretty much how they were back in the old series, like in the old George Reeves series, but in the old comics as well, obviously. But freshen them up a little bit. I could have done without Jimmy's mullet, but and I wouldn't have minded if Lois wore pants every once in a while.
Superman's mullet at one point. We all deal with things.
But yeah, I think the Superman animated series is my favorite version of the character on screen. Of course, every time I think of the comics, the first thing I think of is like the Death of Superman stuff and like Dan Jurgens. Just first and foremost, Dan Jurgens right there. Like, hello. And it usually is a mullet Superman too.
Just right there on cue. Yeah.
I mean, overall, that's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Superman. I think it's sort of an amalgamation of a lot of different versions of the character. But, yeah, there's something to be said for your first.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the different mediums. What would you say is like the worst version of the character you've ever seen?
That one is, that one's slightly impossible. Like, the only...
Yeah?
Tying into what we just talked about, like, the only version of the worst might be the
if you don't want to say worst, you can just say least favorite, I
mean, but, like, the whole death and return of Superman kind of situation is maybe the least fun I've ever had with the character, personally. And like, I lost track for years. And then like one day I was over at somebody's house. It was one of those like 11-year-old sleepovers or whatever it was. I'm just guessing at the age. I don't freaking know. And I've always been like the guy who falls asleep last.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always just kind of staring at the ceiling, thinking, I guess can't wake everybody up. And in this case, I looked over and saw like the death of Superman and thought, what the hell? And picked it up. And it's just not my favorite thing that's ever happened for a lot of reasons. Like Doomsday is a little weird. It's neat as an idea, but it's a little weird. Like I didn't like the aesthetic at the time of how they were drawing Superman, and then when he comes back as like 4 Supermen that I guess culminate into ours, it was just a little odd for me.
No, they didn't culminate into ours. They like a number of like.
Oh no, I know. I mean, like the characters continued, but it was just like we got back to telling stories about Superman. It was just a little weird. Just a little weird.
Maybe it's because that was my first real like exposure to Superman as far as the comics go. Like, and by that I mean like I had plenty of exposure to Superman before. Like, and again, I don't know how I knew all this, but I had a Lex Luthor action figure. I played with that thing. I had a Superman and a Lex Luthor, and I played with them until like they fell apart. Like, actually, I've still got the Superman. His cape's a little stained with ink, but that Lex Luthor fell apart. Like, I had to buy a new one. Like, I had to rebuy that version of Lex Luthor because I just wanted that version because it was my first Lex Luthor. But I had all that stuff before I ever read any of the comics. And looking at like the death of Superman, I look at it now and realize it was a little weird, a little janky.
Mm-hmm.
But back then it was just like, holy shit! They're like, they're frying the sacred cow, and it just felt like an incredibly poignant time as a kid. It felt like a poignant time in comics history. It felt like they were really trying to prove that they were willing to do something. They killed Superman, they broke Batman's back, they put a new Batman in, and also, by the way, your favorite Robin, he's Dick Grayson, he's Nightwing now. He's not Robin. He hasn't been for quite some time. And like that realization came to me. They didn't do that then, but that had been a thing for a long time. I didn't know that. I was a kid.
That was like your personal zeitgeist.
Right. That was like when I came to realize like, oh shit, the comics aren't static. They're, this isn't like we're just going to have an adventure every week. There's an ongoing story. And so that was just all part of the
growing
realization.
up in a certain way, though, is like you realize, holy God, the things I love change.
Right. And now you want to follow that.
Yeah.
But for me, like the worst Superman I've ever seen was probably the electric Superman. I have a couple of action figures. I have a blue electric Superman, a red electric Superman. I do. I honestly do. I have those. I love the Grant Morrison run where he was just kind of dealing with those Supermen.
I still kind of wish that made a purple one.
I was very happy when Superman came back for real. Cause I was like, I always hated the episodes of things I was a big fan of Beetlejuice, the animated series. And I was always like annoyed when Beetlejuice didn't look like Beetlejuice when he was in a cowboy suit or when he like looked like something else or it was, pretended to be like took the shape of something else. I was for like an entire episode. It always annoyed me because it was like, that's not what Beetlejuice looks like. Don't do that. I had the same feeling with like Superman being electric. I was like, these aren't his powers. Just what? He looks like Blue Gambit.
Yeah, he actually did. Yeah, that was weird.
So I think that was it was a cool idea, but it was executed weirdly, and I wasn't a big fan of it. I do look at it now with a certain air of nostalgia, like, oh yeah, Electric Superman. I forgot about that for a second. Yeah, well.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened to that run for a while because, like, I was absent from comics for a long time, and it was literally like I was following it, and then just especially with Superman, I just kind of went, "Holy shit, he died!" And I realized like real news stations picked this up as though it was a story that wouldn't be rectified in a few months because comics. But like I picked up that issue, which in my memory was about the size and shape of a Reader's Digest. It was small and flimsy, but I read the crap out of it.
Yeah,
and like this is the part that cracks me up. Is I was reading it in the same room with somebody that was asleep as a 10 or 11-year-old or whatever the hell it was, and at some point realized that the light I was using was like waking them up, and like turned that light off and went to the bathroom and turned that light on. I was like, okay, I gotta finish it. But yeah, I tore through the thing, but I had really no conception of where this had gone for a while, and then a few years later picked it up and went, oh, good lord, what happened here?
Yeah.
When did the Supermen happen? And dear God, why? There was some for better or worse here. Still's great. We can keep him. Everything else, I don't know. Just let that slide.
What's funny was like back in the day, like that was my first real jumping in point with Superman, and I think I wound up borrowing those from Matt Carroll of the MCU cast, the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. Nice. And like he had all the Superman stuff. I had all the Batman Nightfall stuff. So we were just like, no, look at this. No, look at this. No, look at this. No, look at this.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is perfect. That is perfect.
But Doomsday. Well, Bane broke his back. Did he kill him? No. And was Batman Superman? No. But see, he was a psychological breakdown. Huh? Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah.
No, that's all.
Did he get replaced with some jackass that didn't look like him? Yeah, 4 of them.
Of course. Damn. Oh shit. Just one, but he's weird.
Talks to this asshole called
not going to work out.
Superboy talked to Saint Dumas. So yeah,
it's fantastic. It makes you pine for the world's finest crossover between BTS and Superman TAS with like the arms akimbo, kind of like, don't hold your arms like that.
Yeah. Good old nighttime.
Yeah.
It's a good episode of Superman.
Yeah.
I was so excited. I knew about the Superman animated series and had not gotten a chance to see it yet. And I wondered, because it looked like the animated series, but there was like no hope that I didn't have any hope that it was actually part of the BTAS series. But when they announced that crossover, they were like, yeah, we're doing more Batman episodes. I was like, shit, yeah. I mean, I was a kid just standing in like a Food World supermarket looking at a Wizard magazine that, of course, I had to have. Because it had like all the old character designs. Or all the character designs they were going to be doing for the new Batman animated series, New Adventures of Batman. I think they were calling it Gotham Knights even at that point. And they're like, we're also going to do an episode with Superman called World's Finest. I was like, yes, like, it was like, and then to like look and see that Superman had already done like episodes with the Flash and episode with Aquaman. I was just like, oh, they're doing it.
And you were, yeah. No, I get it.
Because, like, I would watch,
the universe
Batman
is
animated
here.
series. And,
woo!
yeah. I'd see Batman animated series, and I'm like, oh, they had an episode with Zatanna. That's cool. She was in the Justice League. They should do other people like Superman or something. And then they just didn't.
Right.
Oh. But yeah, I don't know, man. Superman's important. And I'm happy that, if you look at the Dave Cave, which is not finished, it's just really my office, like I've said before, but my DC office. And there's not a lot of Superman. Not like a huge amount. I mean, I've mostly collected Batman my entire life. Batman's my guy.
I'm counting. Hold on. Yep, just on the walls, it's 11.
You have 11 Supermen on your walls?
Yep. That's not counting the crest of a book that shows on the side of that shelf or something. That's just the displayed Superman crest.
I'm counting 15 without turning or moving anything.
Nice.
Without me turning physically or me actually moving, picking anything up.
I have a decidedly more minimalistic kind of design style than you. And by that, I mean, you can tell I have walls. Whereas I think, like, when I walk into a room that you've designed, I think the walls are they're held up by magic. Let's face it. It's magic.
I'm seeing at least 50 Batman under the same criteria, just to give you an idea. But way more of a Batman guy than a Superman guy.
Still 11.
I do love Superman, though. What's that?
Yeah, no, I was counting again. It's still that amount. But good lord, what is it with Batman? Let's see. Hold on.
I see. Hey, you can see wall. You can see wall in my house.
Well, I mean, I spend all that time painting the walls. I want to actually see the color of them.
I can see the color of these walls. I don't like the color of these walls.
In between the cracks?
I mean, I think I've done a good job with negative space, honestly. Like,
I haven't seen it.
I've been thoughtful.
You might have.
I know you haven't seen it, jackass.
You haven't invited me over to see it? Just don't even do that.
I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, stating things you don't know. And, when we lived together, you didn't want me to, like, cover the walls, so I didn't do it then either.
I did. We did.
We put stuff on the walls. We just, not like I would have.
See, to me, the walls were covered.
To me, they were bare.
It's hard to tell the difference between those aesthetics. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
There's actually one wall in my office in particular where it's just a window, and it's on the one hand it's got Batman and the other Batman. That's just one wall.
Yeah. And
then apparently every other wall is just dropped in with Superman.
Yeah.
Covered.
That's fair, man. I'm kind of a weirdo though. I have like these throws, that have different characters on them. Like most people would use them for a light blanket on a couch or something.
Sure.
I put them on the wall.
Okay.
Like I have a giant Batman. I have another giant Batman. I've got,
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot.
But I like giant pictures of things.
I support you.
Yeah, I'm mostly actually working on our guest bedroom now, which is going to be the Marvel room. And,
whole series of plans for that, sure.
Yeah, like, we've got Doctor Who and Firefly, and it'll wind up being Star Trek as well in the living room. The office is DC, and then the big guest bedroom is Marvel. Bedroom is personal, like, pictures of family and stuff. there are ideas being thrown about here. It's pretty neat. It's
You
fun.
gotta have plans. Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, you have a favorite Superman storyline or anything?
Oh, that is a rough question.
It is. I think whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow is probably mine. That last like pre-crisis Alan Moore book.
Yeah. That one's it's hard to choose between that and Birthright is just right up there.
I want to say Justice League the Nail, but I don't feel like that was important because it wasn't really necessarily a Superman story. It was this is how important Superman is. We didn't get him, and the world turned to shit.
Oh, see,
I really love that concept.
Same thing with Darwin Cook's. Yeah, what is that called? Help me out.
New Frontier.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, same thing. Like they kind of waste him in a way that you realize, oh, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Like he rallies the troops and then just goes away, and you're like, oh shit.
I have a Darwin Cook statue on my desk. Darwin Cook Superman.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Yeah, New Frontier is great. Good lord. Hold on. I'll take a journey.
Birthright is good. Super great.
Birthright's great.
I really like I love Birthright.
Yeah. I think I might go with All-Star overall. I think that might be the one.
All-Star is great, man. I love All-Star. I was kind of hoping they'd come back and do another one somehow. Bring it back or do like a separate story from before, if you know how All-Star Superman ends. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't worry about it. Just read it.
We live in a world where everything we talk about is available for about $15 on Amazon. Just do it. It's fine.
Or less
15,
on Comixology.
Yeah. You can read anything for $5.
Any story DC Comics Presents Volume 1, 85. That was a good one. Superman and Swamp Thing, written by Alan Moore. I like Alan Moore Superman.
He was great before he was belligerent.
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
Before he decided that everything he did, we should not be allowed to read.
Well, what are you going to do?
Read it anyway.
He's a delicate genius.
It's the way these things work sometimes, man. I mean, he gave us some great shit.
Yeah, man.
God, I mean, I'm gonna shit on him as an active person, but damn, he gave us some great shit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, we'd be remiss not to mention Red Son.
Oh God, Red Son.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite Superman stories. Yeah. Actually, I cried at that line.
You should.
But the most giddy I think I've ever been reading a comic book story, or maybe just a Superman story. No, maybe it was a comic book story. Was just seeing the Green Lantern Marine Corps. I laughed, and I was just so giddy and stupid over that. I was just like, "That's stupid and amazing.
Yep,
that's so great." Oh man, it was great stuff.
Now, Red Son is I cried on my honeymoon on a beach in Jamaica. Reading fucking Red Son.
Yeah.
Because, damn it, that was amazing.
It's good stuff. Superman Speeding Bullets was good. I really love that. That was an Elseworlds tale. That's where basically Superman is found by the Waynes instead of the Kents and becomes Batman.
Ooh, don't know that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Do that.
Gotta do that
Find that and do it.
Gotta do that one. Okay.
Yeah, man. Do that.
Yep.
I kind of just want to sit down and just have a marathon of George Reeve Superman something. Just maybe watch the old Kirk Allen serials.
We'll get to it.
Oh, there's that great of course the John Byrne Man of Steel series, the Man of Steel series. There's that great bit where they're arresting Lex, and he's like, "You can't arrest me. I'm the most powerful man in Metropolis." They're like, "No, you're not. Not anymore." Served as the origin point for post-crisis Superman.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff out there, guys. It's been 80 years.
There's plenty.
What do you want?
And just 200 to come.
You think 200 years of Superman left?
Yeah, seriously. You can't defeat that character.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, he's waned in years. But he always comes back. Oh, I'll tell you a good one. A really good one. And it's not even really a Superman story, but except it is. It's called It's a Bird. And it's Stephen T. Siegel. And it's basically just him talking about whether or not they want him to write Superman. And he's never related to the character. And it kind of delves into his own like family history. And it's semi-fictional. But as I understand it. But he really jumps into like... why he doesn't relate to Superman, why he shouldn't write Superman, and then why he winds up writing Superman at the end. A lot of stuff about, family illness and stuff, and like the frailty of being human. It's very, very good. And attacks the character in a way, and I don't mean attack, but it jumps into the character in a way that is somewhat unconventional.
Sure.
Oh, for All Seasons. I forgot about All Seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale, great stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's good too.
I'm not sure I meant to actually give everyone a reading list, but there you go. Read all that and Kingdom Come and,
Oh, of course.
all of the things.
Minimally, the thing he just said. Yes, do that.
Again, Alan Moore, for The Man Who Has Everything. Forgot about that one.
Mm-hmm.
That one's great.
Read everything he did before he objected to everything that might happen.
All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. And, I don't know. Maybe this was an enjoyable jump into Superman. But anyway, we'll be back next week, guys. And go check us out on DCOnscreen.com and come visit us on Twitter and all the places, Facebook and Instagram.
We're there.
Until next time, keep some DC on your screen. Our opening narration was from Dan Jurgens' The History of the DC Universe, Part 3 of 10, as featured in DC 52, Week 4. It was performed by me, David C. Robertson. Intro music by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford. Michael's band, Future Elevators, could be found on Spotify or future-elevators.com. Our introduction was performed by Effie Oppelders of the fantastic podcast Stealing the Remote, which lives on SoundCloud. It can also be found on iTunes and Stitcher. We are proudly in partnership with TV Time, TV show calendar and social media site that lets you keep track of what you're watching, what your friends are watching, and where you all left off. DC On Screen is a maladjusted production. Visit maladjusted.tv for more from me and Jason, including sketch comedy, an improvised web series, vlogs, parodies, and more.